Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Alcandros International Trading Podcast. This is your host, Konstantin Alcandros, owner and director of Alcandros International Trading. Today we're covering an article by Reuters titled Uganda President Defiant After World Bank Funding Suspended Over LGBT Law. It's about a couple of days old, maybe about a week old. Again, this was another one I wanted to cover last week, but wasn't able to. Now, you might ask, what does this really have to do with it? Again, what does it have to do with international trading? But it is relevant indirectly for other reasons, which we'll get into. So let's get into this. Story by Elias Birabarema. So that's who it's from. Damn, my scroller today is a bit funny, so it's a bit. All right, there we go. Cool. So this is from Kampala Reuters. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni on Thursday denounced the World Bank's decision to suspend new funding in response to a harsh anti-LGBTQ law and vowed to find alternative sources of credit. The World Bank said on Tuesday that the law, which imposes the death penalty for certain same-sex acts, contradicted its values and that it would pause new funding until it could test measures to prevent discrimination in projects it finances. The World Bank has an existing portfolio of $5.2 billion in Uganda, although these projects will not be affected. The anti-LGBTQ law enacted in May has drawn widespread denunciation from local and international rights organizations and Western governments, though it is popular domestically. Museveni said in a statement that Uganda was trying to reduce its borrowing in any case and would not give in to pressure from foreign institutions. Well done. I applaud President Museveni's statement and his stance on this because I'll get into this a little bit further into more of the geopolitical aspects because geopolitics does have a huge effect on international trade. International trade. I'll look just to move away from the article just briefly. I'll just say, international trade, and one of the things that got me interested in international trade was the geopolitical, sort of the geopolitical aspect of the subject. Now, international trade. Look, in my opinion, international trade is a great business and a great job because it teaches you a lot about the world. Everything affects international trade: finance, banking, culture, religion, language, customs, geopolitics, geography, weather. These are all things that have an effect on the business of international trade. And geopolitics is very much one of the major ones. For a variety of reasons, because of, the game of empire, let's put it that way, because, trade assets are important politically for countries, for nations, as well as not just for the private market. So it is therefore unfortunate that the World Bank and other actors, he wanted to say, it is therefore unfortunate that the World Bank and other actors dare to want to coerce us into abandoning our faith, culture, principles, and sovereignty using money. And that's true. That's basically what the World Bank and the West are doing. They're basically the West in this. And the West for the last how many odd decades has been forcing and blackmailing other countries not in the West to adopt Western ideas and Western customs and Western ways of doing things. And this is just a clear example of what the World Bank, and the West is doing. So I think this, in my opinion, this is good for. This is going to be good for the world of international trade, because I think what we're going to see here is, I think we're seeing more and more a tear in the global order, which I think is good for trade and good for business. and it's only going to facilitate. I think it's going to make doing business easier, actually. Because now you're going to have a whole bunch of countries. If a bunch of countries turn around and tell the World Bank to go fuck themselves, and the West to go fuck themselves, you're going to see alternative ways of doing business, of banking. Whereas now it's, I don't want to say restrictive, but it's to some degree quite difficult to make things happen when you've got a sort of a I wouldn't say yet. Look, I mean, I wouldn't say we have a quasi-global system. I don't want to say that there is like a new world order in the sense that there's only one way of banking and doing things. But there are. I would say the West right now is quite difficult. It can be quite difficult to do business in the West with all the regulations imposed on banks and whatnot. And what governments demand in the West now. So I think the Western governments are becoming, I think, more and more authoritarian. So I think anything that kind of pushes back against that is good, not just politically but also economically and good for business. So anyway, continuing on, they using money. They really underestimate all Africans, he said. That's true too, because unfortunately you've got a bunch of liberals in the West who think, oh wow, poor Africans, they really need our help because we know liberals are self-hating people. So, Museveni said that if Uganda needed to borrow, it could do so from other sources, and that oil production expected to start by 2025 would provide additional revenues. That's true. Russia, I think Uganda, you know what, and this is the reason I want to cover this article, because we have covered in previous articles Russia's new SPFS system, or SPFS, I always get that mixed up. But Russia's been forming their own version of SWIFT since 2014, and there's several, I think it's about 25 to 30 countries now on it. India and China being one of those, being two of those countries. And I think Uganda would be a perfect candidate to be, sorry, that's not the right way to put that. Uganda would be a perfect match for the SPFS system, because now if they want to get funding or they want to work outside of the SWIFT or Western banking system, well, there is an alternative, which is good. So they can just work within, and this is only going to push Uganda further into the Russian sphere of influence. Or let's just say maybe, let's say Brink's sphere of influence. So really, the West loses out in this. Museveni said if Uganda needed a borrow, yeah, okay, we covered that. He added he hoped the World Bank would reconsider its decision, which it won't. The World Bank won't. They're a bunch of autocrats, lefty, liberal autocrats who think that they're gods and that they know best, and that their word is gospel. So until there's like some type of serious depression in the West, I think the World Bank will probably, and the Western financial systems will continue to think that they are in control and that they can dictate terms, which I think at this point they still think they can, but sooner or later, once the BRICS nations and the world outside of the West and OECD countries start to improve economically, I think the West is only going to start to decline further, as it's kind of already doing right now. In June, the United States imposed visa restrictions to some Ugandan officials in response to the law, like they care. President Joe Biden also ordered a review of U.S. aid to Uganda. Yeah, sure, go ahead, review it like anybody cares in Uganda. The people of Uganda have spoken. Let's put it that way. So basically what I take away from this article is that Uganda is only going to be, I don't want to say pushed, but let's put it this way. Uganda will definitely start looking at BRICS as an alternative in terms of financing and whatnot. Geopolitically, this is going to bring Uganda closer in terms of relationships with Russia, China, India, Brazil, South Africa, those countries. And so I think this is only going to further further incentivize the BRICS countries to further develop their financial and banking systems. And I think it's also going to inspire the BRICS countries also to make it easier to do business as well. Like I said before in this article, I mean, the West is just becoming harder and harder to do anything in terms of banking and financing. Just the amount of regulations required, involved in banking. I mean, for example, a couple of years ago, I tried to, I opened up a Forex account. This is completely different, off topic. So, I'm a financial trader as well as operating Alcatraz International Trading, but every now and then I've sort of delved into the Forex world, and so I used a Forex trader out of, what was it, one of these little islands in the middle of like the Indian Ocean or off the coast of Africa. I'm trying to remember. Was it like near Madagascar or something? Anyway, I used one of these offshore Forex providers who were based offshore. And the Australian bank wouldn't let me deposit money from my bank account. My personal bank account. I was not allowed to send money from my personal bank account, which is my money, to an offshore Forex broker. Because it was against ASIC or whatever freaking, rules and regulations. So I said, all right, fine, no problem. So I just converted it into Bitcoin and transferred it anyway. So point being is, like, in the West now, it's becoming just more and more difficult to do anything. Too many rules, too many regulations, too much red tape. I don't really see it changing anytime soon. They would have to be a breakdown in society for anything to change at this point. So otherwise, banks and governments are just going to continue to regulate and over-regulate because they can and because they profit from it. So yeah, so this is good. This is a nice little middle finger from the Ugandan president to the West and to the OECD countries, and I think that bodes well for international trade for our business. So no complaints. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. I'll just plug our website, www.alcatraztrading.com. You become a member of the website. You can post on our forum, find buyers, find sellers, network, make requests and promote offers. You can check out our services page there. Also, we're on Facebook, Instagram, VContact, Gab, LinkedIn, Facebook, I think I mentioned, didn't I? Also, we're on WhatsApp and Telegram. Just trying to think of any other social media profiles. I think that's probably about it. So, yep, obviously you can contact us through those methods. That's pretty much ends this article and this edition, so we'll leave it there. This is Konstantin Alcatraz, director and owner of Alcatraz International Trading, signing out.